I was standing in the hallway holding a glass of orange juice for my 8-year-old son, Mason, when it happened. My sister, Harper, was stomping around the kitchen like she owned the entire house, wearing her usual expression like everything beneath her was an inconvenience. I tried to move around her quietly, careful not to make her explode like she always did, but my elbow hit the counter. The glass slipped. A splash of juice landed on her designer sweatshirt. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video? She froze. Her eyes lifted slowly like a storm forming. Did you just ruin my morning, Emma? She hissed. It was an accident, I said immediately, putting my hands up, because with Harper, even breathing wrong meant suffering. Accident? She looked down at the barely noticeable stain. This is a $200 sweatshirt. You think accidents cover that? I didn't even have time to respond before she lunged at me. Her fingers tangled in my hair so fast I gasped. She yanked my head back so sharply that tears filled my eyes instantly. Harper, stop! I cried, grabbing her wrist, but she only tightened her grip. Behind us, Mom had just walked into the room with her coffee. Dad was right behind her, adjusting his jacket like he was preparing for a photo shoot rather than actually living in the same house as me. But neither of them moved. Neither of them said a word. Neither of them cared. Harper's fist twisted deeper into my hair before she dragged me forward, pulling me across the hallway like a rag doll. Mason, who had been sitting on the couch, dropped his toy immediately. Mama! He screamed. I reached a hand out to him, but Harper jerked me so violently that my knees buckled, and then I felt the first stare under my heel. Oh, please! Harper said loudly, glancing back at my parents. Maybe a trip down the stairs will teach her to be careful with other people's things. Mom smirked and took a sip of her coffee. Dad laughed, actually laughed, and muttered, That girl never learns unless pain teaches her. I couldn't believe it. My own parents, watching their oldest daughter drag me by my hair down a staircase like it was a comedy show. Stop! Please, stop! I screamed as Harper pulled harder. I felt my body slip. My leg hit the edge of the step. My shoulder slammed against the railing. My head jerked as my hair stretched under her grip. Mason ran forward, but Dad blocked him with one arm, saying, Stay out of it, kid. Your mom needs to toughen up. Mason's voice broke as he cried, She's hurting her! Please stop hurting my mama! But Harper didn't stop. She dragged me step by step, my back hitting each wooden edge, my breath crushed out of me as the world shook in violent jolts. Harper, please! I begged, my scalp burning, every inch of me screaming. You ruined my morning, she said simply. Now I'll ruin yours. When she finally let go, I tumbled down the last 3 stairs alone, landing at the bottom like discarded trash. My hair was tangled, patches aching from where she nearly ripped strands out. My elbow throbbed from hitting the floor. My ankle twisted underneath me. But what hurt the most wasn't the pain. It was watching my parents stay on the top step, looking down at me with amusement instead of concern. Mom crossed her arms. If you weren't so clumsy, you wouldn't be on the floor. Dad gave Harper a proud nod. Atta girl, maybe now she'll watch where she spills her mess. I tried to stand, but my leg couldn't hold me. Mason ran to me, crying so hard he hiccuped. He wrapped his small arms around me, his body shaking. Mama, are you okay? Mama, please don't cry. I wasn't crying. Not yet. I was too shocked, too numb. But then Harper said something that snapped something inside me. Next time she spills something, I'll throw her down the whole flight. Dad chuckled. I'd pay to see that. Mom added, Maybe we should have thrown her years ago. Would have saved us from raising a disappointment. I felt Mason's little body tense at those words. And that was the moment, the exact second, something inside me shifted. Not fear, not anger, not pain. Something deeper, something sharp, something I had never felt before. A promise. They would never treat my son like this. They would never treat me like this again. Harper smirked down. Want help up, sis? I can drag you by your hair again if you want. That was the last moment I spent at the bottom of those stairs as the same person I was. Everything after that changed. I didn't go to the hospital that day, even though my ankle was swollen and my scalp felt like it had been peeled away. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have money. And more importantly, I didn't have anyone who cared enough to drive me. But I sat on the living room floor that night with Mason beside me, his little hand in mine, his eyes red from crying. He kept touching my cheek gently, as if checking to make sure I was still alive. "Mama, we don't have to stay here," he whispered. Hearing that from a kid who was only 8 stabbed through me. He wasn't supposed to be thinking about survival. He was supposed to be thinking about homework and cartoons. But my parents had shattered that for him too. When Harper walked by the living room that night, she kicked my foot as if I were furniture. "You still sore?" she mocked. She didn't even slow down. Mom, sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone, didn't look up. "You're dramatic, Emma. You bruise like fruit," Dad added. "Maybe next time don't piss off Harper." I swallowed every scream, every insult, every tremble, because I knew reacting only fed them. But Mason, he didn't understand that. He marched up to my parents with clenched fists and shaking legs. "You're horrible," he yelled. "You, let her hurt my mama." Mom raised her eyebrow lazily. "Watch the tone, boy." "I hate you," he cried. Dad didn't yell. He didn't smack him. He did something worse. He laughed, a cold, heartless laugh. "Careful," he said, leaning forward. "Hate is a big word, but we don't care either way. Your mom has always been a problem, and you're becoming one too." Mason froze. His eyes filled instantly. That was the moment I stood. My ankle screamed. My back screamed. My scalp screamed. But a voice inside me, one I hadn't heard in years, whispered, "Enough!" I grabbed Mason's hand. "Go pack your bag." He blinked up at me. "Now?" "Yes," I said softly. "Right now." He ran upstairs, wiping his tears with the back of his sleeve. Mom scoffed. "Where do you think you're going? You live here." Dad leaned back like it was all entertainment. "Let me guess, running away again? You always crawl back." I looked at them, really looked at them, and for the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt disgust. "I'm not coming back," I said quietly. Harper from the kitchen shouted, "Good, I don't need your pathetic crying in this house." Dad rolled his eyes. "Emma, stop with the drama. You have nowhere to go," Mom added. "And no one wants you. Even your ex left." I didn't flinch anymore. I was too done for their words to reach me. Mason returned with a small backpack, a few clothes, his toy dinosaur, one book. He looked terrified but determined. "Ready, Mama." I hugged him, then turned to my parents. "You won't see us again?" Mom smirked. "Promise?" Dad chuckled. "You'll be back within a week." Harper leaned on the doorframe. "Don't forget to avoid stairs on the way out." That was the last sentence she ever said to me without fear in her voice. I walked outside, Mason's hand squeezed tight in mine. The cold air hit us like truth, harsh but honest. But behind us, Mom opened the front door one last time and yelled, "Hey, don't come back when life beats you again!" Her voice echoed down the street. Mason looked up at me. "Where will we go?" I took a shaky breath. "I don't know yet, but anywhere is better than here." We walked, block after block, my ankle throbbing, my scalp stinging, my heart heavy but beating for the first time. When we reached the bus stop, Mason leaned against me. "Mama," he whispered, "will Grandma and Grandpa ever care about us?" I kissed the top of his head. "No, baby. But that's okay, because I don't need them, and you'll never need them either." He nodded slowly, but inside my chest, something dark and firm began forming. Not poetic, not symbolic, not gentle. A plan. A terrifyingly clear plan. If they wanted to watch me fall downstairs, they were about to learn how it felt to lose everything they climbed over me to protect, without violence, without fear, with consequences, real ones. And when they came crawling, begging, crying, they wouldn't find me broken at the bottom of the staircase. They'd find me standing at the top. The shelter we stayed in that first night smelled like damp blankets and old paint. but Mason slept with his head on my lap like he finally felt safe. I didn't. Not yet. Not until I made sure my parents could never touch us again, directly or indirectly. The next morning, I walked to the community office and asked the attendant, a tired woman named Marcy, "How do I start over with nothing?" She looked at my bruised face, my limping foot, my son standing behind me like a tiny guard dog. "You start by protecting yourself legally," she said. That sentence shifted everything. She helped me file a restraining order, and then she connected me with a domestic violence advocate who documented every bruise, every past injury, every manipulation, every time my parents denied medical help. They took photos of my scalp where hair had ripped out. They interviewed Mason privately, and when the investigator came back out, she looked furious. "They've endangered a child," she said. "This isn't just abuse, this is criminal neglect." That's when my plan finally clicked into place. Not poetic, not symbolic, not gentle, just consequences. Real ones. The 3 weeks passed. I got a job cleaning offices at night. Exhausting, but I held onto Mason's hand every morning like the world couldn't break me anymore. Meanwhile, the investigator built a case. Not against Harper, against my parents. Because the moment they laughed while she dragged me down the stairs, while Mason screamed for help, they crossed a legal line. They didn't just allow abuse, they facilitated it. And then they went even further. My parents posted a photo online, bragging about how peaceful the house is without all that crying. They didn't use our names, but they used enough detail to connect the dots. That gave the investigator everything she needed. The day the authorities showed up at their door, I wasn't there. I didn't need to be, but I heard the rage-filled phone call later when my mother's number flashed on my screen. I answered, calm. Mom's voice spilled through the speaker like acid. "You did this! They showed up asking questions about the stairs, about child endangerment. Are you insane?" I didn't raise my voice. "Tell them the truth." Dad grabbed the phone. "Emma, drop whatever you filed, right now. You're ruining this family's name." I let out a cold breath. "You ruined it yourselves," Harper yelled in the background. "You're jealous of my life, jealous because you're a loser." I smiled a little. She had no idea what was coming. Two weeks later, I got the call. "Miss Cole," the investigator said, "your parents' case is being officially moved forward. The state is pursuing charges for child endangerment and failure to provide aid in a violent household." My hand tightened around the phone. "And Harper?" I asked quietly. "Assault. And because your child witnessed everything, that's an aggravating factor." I didn't cry. I didn't laugh. I just stood there in the cheap shelter hallway, knowing the cycle finally broke. My parents didn't get arrested right away, but something worse hit them first. A welfare worker was assigned to monitor their home. Someone who visited unannounced, checked their habits, checked their income, checked their hostility, checked their compliance. Mom hated being questioned. Dad hated being told what to do. And Harper? She hated being seen as anything less than perfect. Their house, once their kingdom of control, became a microscope. Weeks later, I heard from a neighbor that Mom had screamed at the welfare worker, "This is harassment! We did nothing!" That tantrum alone went into the final report. What they didn't know, what I quietly set in motion with Marcy's help, was the last part, the part they never expected from the weak one. I sent a letter, not to them, to every landlord in a 40-mile radius, with attached documentation of the investigation. Because my parents owned a small home cleaning service, and most of their contracts depended on trustworthiness, gentleness, and excellent family values. Their clients were mostly seniors and families with small children. Once the truth circulated, once the Cole family was associated with child endangerment, they lost 7 major contracts in 1 week. A month later, they shut down the business, and for the first time in my life, they were the ones struggling for shelter. The night my mother finally called again, her voice was hollow, exhausted, stripped of every ounce of superiority. We need help, Emma," she whispered. "Just for a little while, a few nights, until things sort out." Dad took the phone from her. "Emma, we're your parents. It's your duty to—" I didn't let him finish. "Where should I send you?" I asked. Mom's voice perked up, desperate. "Your place. Please, we'll sleep on the couch." "No," I interrupted calmly. "Where should I send you?" Silence, then confusion, then fear. "I'm not offering a place," I clarified. "I'm offering a map to the shelter we stayed in." Mom's breath hitched. "Emma, please, don't do this. We're family." I took a slow breath. "You said my smoke follows me everywhere," I said. "Now you can sit in the cold with the consequences you lit yourself." Dad yelled, "You ungrateful!" I hung up. And that was it. Not poetic, not quiet, not symbolic. Just justice, just accountability, just finally flipping the power they'd used to crush me. Mason peeked around the corner that night. "Mom, did Grandma say sorry?" I shook my head. "No, baby, but she will someday." "Will we see them again?" I pulled him close. "That depends on if they learn how to treat people. Until then, we're safe." He smiled, a tiny, tired, relieved smile, and hugged me around the waist. For the first time in my life, being the weak one didn't feel true. Because weakness doesn't leave. Weakness doesn't protect a child alone. Weakness doesn't burn down an entire legacy of cruelty with evidence and law. Weakness stays. I left, and I made sure they felt the fall. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.